I'm Scott, co-chair of the Cville Chamber's Rising Professionals, along with my co-chair, Rhiannon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is our series of virtual networking events that we've been having since late last year. Today, it's a very exciting one. We're with Chris Henry, president of Stony Point Development Group, and Jodi Mills, Director of Marketing and Public Relations for Stony Point Development Group. And they're in charge of the new Dairy Market, Dairy Central project that you may or may not have seen developing over the last couple years, I guess now, right? Over on Grady and Preston. So it's a super exciting new area. I had the pleasure myself of going there and having some dinner with my family, and it was an awesome experience. And I'm friends with a number of the vendors in there, so it's going to be an amazing spot. It's going to be an amazing place, and they know all the background on it. They have all the interesting info and all the things that are coming up within the next year. And I'm just gonna hand the floor over to you guys. I don't know if Jodi or Henry or Chris wants to start. You guys pick.
Well, I'll go ahead and start if you want me to. I know Chris just kind of chimed in on the call, and I was talking with Elizabeth and Scott prior to and sharing some information, but I'm Jodi Mills. I am the Director of Marketing and PR for Stony Point Development Group. We're a local company, which you'll learn a little bit more about us as we go through the slideshow tonight. But I am been a part of the team for, gosh, almost 5 years now. We started in residential construction, and I sold many of the new homes for Stony Point Development Group over in Stony Point, Lachlan Hill, and Dunlore Park. So we have a long track record of success in the marketplace, and we decided about 2 years ago to switch over to commercial real estate, and took on this wonderful, wonderful project, which is now Dairy Central, which includes Dairy Market, Dairy Central, and eventually in the next couple of months, maybe the next 8 months, we'll have 10th and Dairy, which is an apartment community, which you'll learn a little bit more about on the slideshow. So we're so excited to be here. A lot of our partners, Thalheimer and Retro Hospitality, are on this call watching. So we're so excited to have our team members there. And you think that we're the ones that are in charge, but we have two team members that are on the chat with us tonight, and that is Frank Brunetto and Eugene Fitzgerald. They're on the call, and they truly are the day-to-day operators of the Dairy Market and the Retro Hospitality team. So they're on the call too.
Thanks, Jodi. Chris, you want to jump in and say a few words?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is a really exciting opportunity to talk to a lot of folks that I've seen some familiar faces here and some I don't know, but the Chamber has been an awesome venue for businesses to collaborate and network and build a stronger Charlottesville together. And Elizabeth, I think I've told her this a million times, but she's done an amazing job, I think, bringing this Chamber to new heights since she's joined. And so it's an honor to be here to talk to everybody. And we're really happy that there was interest in talking about Dairy Market. It happens to be one of my favorite subjects and something I've been thinking about every day for 7 years, or for 3-4 years almost now, and certainly losing some sleep over at certain times. But we're, I think Jodi has a presentation we're going to go through that has a lot of the details, and we'll take as many questions as you guys want about Dairy Market. But just a quick bio on me is I'm the president of Stony Point Development Group. And I co-founded the company with an investor locally here in 2015. And as Jodi mentioned, we started out building homes, and we moved quickly from there into some larger commercial projects regionally in Central Virginia. And last year we branched out into Raleigh, North Carolina as a new market where we now have one project and more in the pipeline. But you'll see more exciting things from us in 2021 and 22. We have some great new local projects that will slowly be kind of rolling out. And And as far as Dairy Market goes, we bought the property in we found out about the opportunity to buy the property in 2016, closed in 2017, and have been working on it ever since. So it's really been a labor of love, and it's amazing that for me, walking to the project now and going in the front doors and running into Frank and Eugene and his team and the Tallheimer team and customers and different folks that are employed at the facility, it's taken on this life of its own. And it's really satisfying to see that, because at the beginning we sort of talked about designing it to be this canvas to showcase all the great things about Charlottesville that we all love. And in a lot of ways so far, knock on wood, in 2 weeks, it's starting to become that. And it's been just, one of the best parts about 2020, certainly for me. So I'm excited for you guys to see the details of the project, for Jodi to kind of walk through some of the great pictures we have to share. And I would love to see each and every one of you out at the Dairy Market whenever you feel safe and comfortable doing so.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm excited for everyone to check it out too, and excited for everything you all have in store for the rest of the year. As Chris said, Jodi has a presentation that she'd like to share with all of us. Do you have control right now, Jodi, or do we need to hand over the reins?
Elizabeth, do I have control? Okay. And I just want to take a quick ask. How many of you have been to Dairy Market? Raise your hand on Zoom. Awesome, awesome. Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start our presentation. I'm gonna see how well we can do this, Todar. Oops, not that one. There we go. So we took the opportunity to share with you some slides about Dairy Market. And then we also have a video that was done today. So as we're going through the slides, when we get to a certain point, we're going to stop and we're going to show just a slideshow or a video of the Dairy Market that was taken today. But as you see, this is a beautiful building. This is, for those of you who are from the Charlottesville Marketplace, this was the Monticello Dairy Building. As Chris said, this is a wonderful historical building. You're going to see some highlights as far as history is concerned. But as far as an adaptive reuse project that we entered into with our local, with some architects, Cunningham Quill, we entered into this project together to try to continue to keep the authenticity of the building in Charlottesville. And we were really excited about how it came together. And so this is an initial glance of what the building looks like on the front. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar, this is at the intersection of 10th and Grady and Preston. And so this is a fantastic street presence. And in this picture, you're going to see the catenary lights, the big traditional Monticello columns on the front of the building. But what you don't see a lot of in this picture is all of the patio space. And one of the things that we're super excited about is what this project is going to look like come the weather being nice outside. There's certainly been lots of people who have come, sat outside and enjoyed the outside seating that we have, but we're looking forward to a wonderful spring with lots of folks outside and enjoying the patio spaces. So Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about the building itself and give some input as to some of the ideas we had around entering into this?
Yeah, I mean, it was, so the building was built in 1937. It was formerly the Monticello Ice Company, and it was a local family, the Jessups, that a lot of folks have probably heard of their name. And they started the Monticello Ice Company and then owned the Monticello Dairy, and they produced milk, cheese, and ice cream out of this factory. It expanded several times. The building footprint expanded several times from 1937 as they added on like a cheese facility and the ice cream. But originally it was for processing milk, and they would pasteurize it and they would put it onto the under the sort of the the iconic milk truck, and they would go door to door in Albemarle County, and this is where everybody got their milk from. They would show up with fresh milk every day, and they would grab your old glass bottles, and they'd put fresh ones on. And we know this because of old pictures and the written history, but we've also collected a lot of memorabilia, and our architect calls them relics from the building. And we have these, so we have lots and lots of these glass milk bottles of various sizes that we've collected and people have given us, or we bought them on eBay over the years, and some milk trays. And so it's just really been neat to experience that part of the history. And we actually paid homage to that part of the building's heritage with the chandelier that's over the main bar in the entrance hall to the market. They're exact replicas of the milk bottles that we had collected over the years, and then they're hung from the ceiling on this white LED light string that is supposed to emulate a milk bottle pouring up towards the ceiling. Just kind of a fun way to pay homage to the building. The other fun things about, I think, the construction and the architectural style here, obviously it's iconically Jeffersonian with the with the pedimented front columns and the brick, which is they used that in the 18 and 1900s because there was so much red clay around here. It was an easy product to get your hands on and make a building material out of. That's where Mad Bull came from at UVA. They dug it out as they were building the University of Virginia. So many cool things that tie this building back to Charlottesville. And then the market hall concept came about. And Jodi, if I'm getting way ahead of you, just let me know.
No, go ahead.
What concept came about from travels with around the world. I like to travel in a lot of with my family, and then folks on our team travel as well. And so we all were familiar with like this market hall concept, and it tied into the milk and the farm to table kind of aspect of the original dairy building, because really this was one of the original kind of farm to table facilities in the United States. And there was lots of these types of facilities, but if you think about the concept from Colthurst Farm out in Albemarle County, it's across from where Foxfield races are now. It's a subdivision, but it used to be a dairy farm, and they would bring the milk from Colthurst Farm to this building. They would pasteurize it, they would bottle it, and they would send it to the doorstep. So it was very much a farm to table operation. And so the concept of putting more food use and this market hall back into this space after it had kind of been dilapidated for a couple of decades resonated with our team, and it resonated with a lot of people in the community. And it became this, it was this iconic gathering space, as you see from the picture of Santa Claus and the train in the ice cream parlor that used to be on site. So many folks that we talked to that have lived in Charlottesville long enough remember going here still. It closed down in the 1980s. So there's plenty of people around that remember still going in here as a kid with their parents, getting ice cream, seeing Santa Claus, seeing the train, and experiencing this beautiful building. So we wanted to bring all of that back, and we thought that the market hall was an appropriate one of many paths we could have probably taken, but an appropriate way to pay homage to the history, bring something new and fun to Charlottesville, and create an iconic destination and gathering place for the city and the community in a way that features the best of the local talent for food, for retail, for makers. There's so many incredible artists, so many different facets of the word here in Charlottesville, and we hoped to be able to feature as many versions of that word as we could through this physical space. And that was kind of the vision for the dairy market component of this project, which is less than 25% of the actually the total Dairy Central project when we think of that we work on in my office. But the market's been by far the most fun and interesting piece of the whole thing, and definitely the most public. So Jodi, why don't you give the stats on the market, the technical?
Absolutely. So the current slide that you see on the screen, and I have to go back and really kind of talk a little bit about that last picture that you saw here with the Santa Claus in the entryway. So if you notice the white tile on the ceiling, you notice the cases that are around you. These displays were really something that that really brought people into the dairy years ago, the Monticello Dairy, and they would change the displays at each of the holidays and seasons, and really people came to see it. It was kind of iconic. And they even created this really unique newsletter years ago. And in the back hallway, as you go towards the restrooms at the dairy market, we have started this nostalgia wall with these very cool old pictures. And they created this newsletter, and that newsletter was called the Bovine Bugle. And it was sent to folks that were away at the war, in the war, or couldn't come into Charlottesville or be around the town, but wanted to see what was going on. And so we in turn have actually created a newsletter, which you can sign up for on our dairy market website. And we are also calling it the Bovine Bugle. And the Bovine Bugle would actually go back and pay homage to the different scenery and different displays that they would set up. And I just think it's exciting because if you look at these pictures, this is that same grand entry where that Santa Claus was sitting. And we went so far as to try to save as much of the original parts of the building, or try to bring back the original parts of the building. So this is a beautifully white tiled entry. It is now a 2-story building, but it is the grand entry hall to the dairy market. And
Can I make a point? I think it's a really cool testament to like the depth of the history and the resources we have in this city, because the Bovine Bugle, they still have hard copies of this newsletter in the Harrison Special Collections Library at University of Virginia, which is where we found it. And that's just really neat that we can walk down the street and have that amazing educational resource that has this historical record for lots and lots. I mean, it's the alternate site for the Library of Congress. And it's just neat to live in Charlottesville and have access to that. And a lot of people don't know that we do. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yep, it's exciting. And just a little bit about Dairy Market. We do have the brewery called Starkilled Brewery. That's one of our anchor we call them end cap users of our building, but Starkilled Brewery. There are going to be a total of 12 food stalls when everybody is open. And I would estimate sometime the latter part of the spring, early part of the summer, that everybody will be up and running. We have one full service restaurant coming. And again, that would be on the other side. And then we have the potential for 4 retail stalls at the dairy market. And then we have this wonderful centerpiece bar that you've heard us talk about, the lights and the bottles that are hanging, but it is a centerpiece bar called the Milk Bands Bar. So what I would love to do is, I'll quickly go through these, but I would love to talk a little bit about, or just introduce you to the merchants at the dairy market. These are the faces that you see. And one of the things that's pretty exciting for us, and it came together so naturally, organically almost, and that is that we had so much focus on this beautiful building, and we did so much to pay homage to it. But then the collection of folks that we brought together that are now in every day, the merchants who are in their stalls cooking for all of you, it's been a really neat, interesting collection of all different nationalities, different food types, and there's so much passion. And really, people ask me all the time, they want to call it a food hall. And we try really hard to move people away from a food hall, because the old thought process of a food hall was that you would go to the mall and you would grab something at the mall, but you didn't go to the mall for food, right? You went there for shopping. The food was just a convenience and was quick and easy for you. The market hall, which is Dairy Market, you go there intentionally for the idea that you're going to have this great meal, that you're going to have a gathering with friends or family or what have you, and your intent to go to the market is for food. And so these folks that are working behind the scenes are just bringing that to life, and it's pretty exciting. And many of these faces you're going to recognize and know. This is Dino. Dino is doing a fantastic job with rotisserie chicken and wood fire pizza. some of the best pizza I've ever had. It's really exciting to have you walk in the front doors and his pizzas, big pizza brick, volcanic, made with volcanic rock. Brick oven is there. It's so classic and wonderful.
And that oven's imported. He brought that thing from Italy.
Absolutely. His rotisserie chicken can cook 76 chickens an hour, and it was special made for him in Texas. You all are very familiar with this face. Angelique Jenkins and her husband Charles are in this picture, and they were our first folks to come in and Lisa Stahl from us, and she was part of the incubator program here in Charlottesville and has such a success story. And she's a soul food preparer and has such passion for what she does. And I've never seen her without a smile on her face. This is a local patron. You know, many people are familiar with Jay. Chim has a couple of different locations around town, his family does. And so this is Chim Street, and they're bringing Thai food to the dairy market. Then again, another face that so many people who went to UVA know and love is Tom Bowe, who has been, had Take It Away for over 27 years on the corner. And if you just look at that face, that wholesome, honest face, it's hard not to fall in love with this gentleman who takes such passion in making you a sandwich and putting this special sauce on it. So
Jodi, do you believe that that guy has one of his own sandwiches every single day and probably has been for 30 years? I mean, he doesn't look like it, but.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. It's classic. It's classic. So I hope that you can see just in these pictures that we're sharing with you, the true passion and love for Dairy Market and love for what they're doing, just in their smiles and the welcoming. Aleva Coffee is one of our groups that we brought in from Brooklyn, and they have an amazing story and a great cup of coffee. And Emilio is the owner of the Aleva Coffee Company, and he was brought up in Guatemala. And he actually goes back and buys direct from the growers and then gives back to the communities of fresh water and education, and such a fantastic story. And that's the face that you see when you enter the main hallway every morning. And she's just, this is Tiara, and she is just brilliant and a huge smile. And then the Milkman's Bar is what we've been talking about as that centerpiece bar. River Hawkins and Mike Stewart and Wilson Ritchie, local guys, 10-course hospitality. This is another fine example of, you know, something they are touching and really creating a spark. And so we're really excited about this throwback to the 50s and 60s soda fountain creativity. And you can just see as he puts that, you know, energy into making the drink, that he's like a scientist. And to watch him is just so much fun. So I hope you'll come over and have a drink.
Yeah, Jodi, he's got to be the most entertaining bartender in Charlottesville. It's just fun to sit and watch him do his craft.
I have to laugh. They make their own ice and they etch their logo into the ice. And he has a drink that has a round ice cube in it. And it's called the Lucille Ball. And you get this beautiful drink with a big ball of ice in it and great cocktail. It's really killer. It's fun. And this is a pretty face and a sweet girl, and bakes the best baked goods. I can't even sing her praises enough, what creativity she has. They have a farm, an organic farm in Goochland, and they've been at our local farmers market here in Charlottesville. And this is their first opportunity to come into a brick and mortar building. And to be honest with you, that was really what this whole concept was about. Having these stalls and the opportunity for people who maybe have never had a restaurant before, maybe have had a food truck, a catering company, had a booth at the farmers market. This was an opportunity for them to come in at a cost-effective, in a cost-effective way to be able to achieve their dreams and share their passion. And that was really what the goal was. And together you have this really amazing family of merchants that are coming together. And this is Be Conscious Baking Company, and they open this week. So, or I'm sorry, early next week. And you've got to get in and have their treats. And then this is a gentleman, a local gentleman, Fernando Diaz Dizon, and he actually runs a food truck that many of you are familiar with called Little Manila. And now they're bringing Manila Street into the dairy market with Filipino cuisine. And, you know, talk about a passion, a family passion, watching his grandmother cook and bringing those smells and those tastes into the dairy is going to be fun. And they open here in a couple of months, probably, I would say, in the next 2 months. Springhouse Sundries is a group that we're really excited to have. This will be more of a retail store. This is going to be wine, beer, all of your accompaniments that could go with putting together a cheese and wine basket to go out on a picnic. This is a great group of people. They own the Wine Guild, or they're part owners of the Wine Guild, and they're branching off to start Springhouse Sundries. And they will be with us starting this weekend. So something to be really excited about and a little bit different. Their main goal and their main focus is to pull together bottles of wine at Dairy Market that are less than $20, that are fantastic bottles of wine. Now, I think they have the best job on the planet because they get to taste wine all the time, so they can find the best wines to bring to you. And she is a sommelier, and Matt has been in the wine industry for years and years and years, and such passion and energy. So we're really excited. And then move through. This was probably our biggest post and the group that brought the most excitement from outside of the Charlottesville marketplace, because anybody going up and down 29 has passed Move Through for years and years, and they wanted to be here so much for so many years. And Ken, the owner, tells a story about how he really truthfully would love to have, when all the UVA buses would stop, the athletes would stop, and they would drop the kids off and they would have ice cream. And so he's always wanted to be in Charlottesville. So we're really excited to have them on board. And I recently told Ken that he's missing an opportunity if he does not create a candle with a Move Through label on the outside that smells like a waffle cone, because I'm telling you, you walk in Dairy Market and it smells like a waffle cone. I think he'd sell 100 of them. So, and then for those of you who, of course, love Starkilled Beer, they were founded, originally established up on Main Street in the Starkilled neighborhood. They're coming back to their roots and opening up a brewery here, a pilot brewery, and we're really excited to have them. And if all goes well, we look to have them in at the beginning of February. So not too much longer until we have them coming in. And then in 2021, you've got a whole other list of folks that are not officially announced yet, but their names are being shared with the people that visit. And that's Green Burger. That's a vegetarian concept that we have coming in. So really excited about that. Dino does do vegetarian, and there's other folks that do vegetarian. Citizen Burger Stand, and these are guys that you know and love, and they're gonna come to Dairy Market. And then a Japanese flair in some sushi and Japanese, a guru in Japanese food is gonna come in. And then Maisel is a group up in Union Station, and that is Latin fare. And they're gonna be coming in. And then that full service restaurant, we can't tell you the name yet, but that is a Wilson Ritchie restaurant. And so he is super excited, but he has not allowed us to share what the concept is. And so we're really excited that they'll be coming on board. And then these are just some shots that we have, some faces in the Dairy Market that we wanted to share with you. And then, you know, quickly, we just wanted to talk about the fact that if you've been to Dairy Market, there's lots of space. So we know that it's a tough time to come out, a tough time to visit, but we have put so many safeguards in place to make you feel comfortable while you're at Dairy Market. And Eugene and Frank and the ambassadors, those guys that are around picking up the trays and helping you and directing you, they are there to make sure that we keep things as safe as they possibly can. So we wanted to make sure you felt really, really comfortable. And then I'm going to turn this over to Chris and let Chris talk a little bit about the next slide.
Yeah, so, that's Dairy Market, and that was always the plan to kick off this larger mixed use kind of master plan community on Preston Avenue that we call Dairy Central. It's I think about it like a new neighborhood, a new urban neighborhood that we're bringing out of the ground. The market is now open, and Jodi gave you all the great details about that. And we have the first new Class A office space that's been delivered in Charlottesville since 2007, I think. Connected to the market, and that space is almost full and occupied at this point. We have some really great national tenants, and one of the groups that took a whole floor was the Virginia Humanities associated with UVA, but it's a nonprofit that does a lot of great humanities work in the community, and they're going to be great partners. And then you can see this behind the market building if you've driven by lately. This is called 10th and Dairy, and this is 180 brand new urban residences, we call them. They're rental apartments, 1 and 2 bedrooms, with a full slate of amenities in the building, a double height lobby with leasing office and mail room, automated package room, a co-working space, a resident lounge, a gym, 2 courtyards, including a pool courtyard with grill pits. There's a dog wash, a car wash, a bike room, anything you can think of basically that a new modern building would want to have. It's here. And Jodi's scrolling through some renderings of what it will look like, and it's going to look like these pictures. I mean, we have a fantastic architect out of Washington, D.C. called Cunningham and Quill, and they've really put their best foot forward with the design here, and we're really excited about how this building is shaping up. We could talk for probably 2 hours about the community engagement process that went into designing this and getting it approved. But it was overall, a great experience, and we're proud of where we've come with this and what it's going to be when it opens up. And we'll have our first residences moving into this building in August of this year.
Absolutely. And I must apologize. A slide must have gotten away from me when I put this together. And so I do want to go back and share a little bit about Dairy Central, Chris, and share the tenants that are there. You mentioned UVA Humanities. Allen, and Allen are located there. Care Hospice will be coming, and Type Zero and Dexcom have offices there. CoStar is a company that just finished their office space and will open, I believe, they should have people there at this, as we, now. So I'm so sorry that slide slipped out of this. And we have a wonderful relationship. Again, we mentioned Thalheimer. We have a wonderful relationship with Thalheimer, and they were instrumental in bringing in our tenants. We do actually still have 1 retail stall available that's about 2,000 square feet. And then we have 2 office spaces that are available, one up to 5,000 square feet and the other up to 32,000 square feet. So
3,200, Jodi.
I meant to say 3,200, I'm sorry, 3,200 square feet. So there are 2 spaces left still at Dairy Central, and there is still 1 retail space available in Dairy Market.
And I think, Jodi, we didn't mention the brick cellar, but that's 7,000 feet of event space in the lower level. There was an old, it was like a wood shop and some, I don't know, an old factory floor. We turned it into this really neat event space. It's multi-purpose. There's a community room there. The neighborhood association will be using that for their meetings, and we'll do some other neat community outreach with that. And then there's this nice little corridor that meanders through the back of that space that we're going to be using as an art gallery of sorts and showcasing local artists. So just another way we can feature some of the great artists and crafts people that are here in Charlottesville. So that's pretty much Dairy Central. there's more things in store in the future in our imagination, but this is where we are today and what we can share. And it's, it's been a really fun journey, and it's been fun to share this with the chamber. So I just want to be respectful of the time that we have. Elizabeth.
How are we doing on time, Scott?
I think we got about 20 more minutes. I think it's a good time for some Q&A, but real quick, thank you both for the presentation. That was great. I didn't know a lot of that info, so thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I think if anybody has any questions, either unmute yourself and just ask, or raise your hand, or drop it in the chat box.
And we will show you the tour before we're done, but please ask us some questions.
Yeah, Jodi, if you want, you can roll that that tour video. We can just have that going.
I'll start with a quick question. First of all, I am so thrilled about this project. I think you all have been so thoughtful in the approach to it. And I moved here 2 years ago to come to work for the chamber, and my first ribbon cutting that I did in Charlottesville was for Angelique's food truck. And so it is such an exciting evolution here to see in such a quick period of time how much she's accomplished. And I was curious how you all curated such an excellent and diverse and unusual collection of organizations to go into the food stall area. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Well, it was really, truly a huge team effort, and we all, pulled on our networks in different ways to try and create connections and conversations that would lead to people moving into the market. And we were very intentional in the approach. And we also had a great leasing team that we brought in, which was John Pritzloff and Jenny Stoner with Thalheimer. So they were, we have weekly meetings with them even to this day for various leasing items, but it was a Herculean effort to get that amount of paperwork done. We think each of these leases is 60 pages long, and we have 20 of them in this building. Just getting through the paperwork alone was kind of a monumental task. But so it was team effort. But we started, with designing the space, and then we always imagined, had all these conversations about who we might have in the space and what it could be when it grew up. And so we started with a list. And actually, we had a consultant that we brought on, George Banks with Revel, which is a retail and hospitality consulting group in Atlanta. And George, prior to starting that company, had been one of the partners that developed a property called Krog Street Market that some of you may know or have been to. It's a really popular market in Atlanta. And I really liked how that market had laid out and wanted to take a lot of the design elements, and was thrilled when I got introduced to George at an Urban Land Institute conference. And we started brainstorming about markets. And then, he encouraged us to start with a list of who we wanted to have in this market. So we called it our VIP list. And we had categories of food because we didn't want to have overlap with different groups. And typically in a retail environment like this, if you're signing a lease with a chicken guy, he's going to ask you to put an exclusion in everybody else's lease that they won't serve chicken as a way to protect his business. And it's mutually beneficial too. You don't want your tenants competing themselves out of business, because that's bad for the landlord. So we had these categories, like here's the major food groups and retail styles that we wanted to have. And then we put our top guys in Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Greater Virginia, and in some cases with Aleva, went outside of the market to bring them in, and just went down that list and called, and it depended on who had the relationship or could make a connection. And it was 3+ years of work, and we're still not done. So as Jodi mentioned, we have a couple spaces left, but that work has gotten so much easier now that we're open and it's vibrant and dynamic and coming alive. We're just kind of sitting back now, and people are calling us, but it was 3 years of pushing and calling and networking to get to the point where we could announce that list that Jodi went through of those amazing people that are here in Dairy Market and in the office building. And actually, and there's two fun stories about the office building that I like to share with. One of them is Dexcom, And they started as a group here in Charlottesville called Type Zero. And they were down in the X factory, and they got grant funding through UVA and some other family groups in town to come up with technology that could be integrated into insulin pumps for diabetics. And it was an algorithm that would help automate the control of giving insulin over time. And I know a lot about this because my wife's type 1 diabetic, so she used the technology. And then this public company that's in the space of continuous glucose monitoring bought Type Zero and made it. They took over the company, they made an investment, and they brought it inside of Dexcom and integrated it into their technology. And now it's nationwide as the best, basically artificial pancreas technology in the world. Their headquarters is in San Diego, but they kept that research group here in Charlottesville, and they still kind of call themselves Type Zero, but they're officially employed by Dexcom. And that was for me, an awesome local startup story of the dynamic kind of work that goes on here in Charlottesville connected to the research that UVA does, and then launching some of those businesses into much bigger and better things. And it's something Elizabeth and I talk about a lot. And the other story is CoStar. That it's along the same lines. There was a student leasing platform that a group started here in Charlottesville, and I always the name always escapes me, but they had a website where they would connect mom and pop student housing landlords to a bigger market. So they created this platform where people could shop for student housing in small markets in college towns like Charlottesville. And CoStar, if anybody is in the real estate business, knows is probably the largest player in technology and advertising for commercial real estate. So anyone that leases an apartment, there's a 75% chance that you find out about that apartment and do all of your research through a CoStar website, apartments.com, or they have 5 or 6 other ones. And so CoStar has been growing by acquisition, and they bought this local startup for student housing and integrated that technology, whatever they had, all their assets into the CoStar platform. And they kept those employees here in Charlottesville, and they decided to expand that business, hire new people, and they did they took the top floor of the dairy office building. They invested a lot of money into building out that space, and it's one of the most beautiful offices I've seen anywhere in Charlottesville. You can see it at night if you walk by the market because of the curtain wall glass. You can see into their space, and it's another local startup story for groups that have had a lot of success and been able to have a good exit and launched here in Charlottesville. So I love both of those stories, and I'm really proud that we get to host them at Dairy Market. I think if there wasn't that space available at the time, and there wasn't this push to create more dynamic office opportunities here in Charlottesville at Dairy Market or the Code Building or Apex or 323, this community's at risk of losing those businesses. And it's really important to keep them here. It's such a value add to have that talent here in Charlottesville and have those businesses staying here and growing here. So we're really proud, to be able to share those kind of stories with the chamber.
We have some other great things. I really want to make sure to share a couple of things too, to piggyback off of Chris. And that is, before we even opened, we connected with the community on so many different levels with our parking lot. And for those of you who had the opportunity to come enjoy our drive-ins over the summer, we took the proceeds from the contributions that we had, and we gave back to City of Promise, because the 10th and Page neighborhood is so important to us and the connectivity to the neighborhood. So we did give those proceeds back to the City of Promise. And then we were lucky enough to work with the Virginia Film Festival and have the film festival show their movies in our parking lot, which was such a community connection. And we have another community connection starting in the next couple of weeks, and that is with the convention and Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau. And their mobile van is going to be parked at Dairy Market 1 day a week, which is going to be great for folks that are traveling from out of town or folks that are looking for information. So we have a lot of opportunity to connect with the community, and that's exactly what Chris was saying with, Dexcom and Type Zero. That's exactly what this is all about, is connecting with the community.
Thank you both. I think we're all excited for for Dairy Central and the dairy market especially. Thank you so much for providing all the information.